EPA boss Lisa Jackson has seen a lot of controversy in her 4 years at the agency and has now sparked a new debate on her way out the door. Her tenure, marred by complaints about regulations that critics say have hurt rural America, cost jobs, and driven up energy costs. But she suggests her failure to communicate was the real problem, saying, quote, "Had I known that these myths about everything from cow flatulence to spilled milk could be seen as the EPA is coming to get you, I would have spent more time trying to inoculate against that." Leslie Marshall is a syndicated radio talk show host and Fox News contributor. Tony Saig is a Republican political analyst and national political correspondent for Talk Radio News Service. Welcome to you both.
Thanks so much.
Hi, Shannon.
All right, Leslie, let me start with you. You know, there are a lot of folks out there, and I will paraphrase my colleague Greg Gutfeld the other day, who have a problem with those who are more worried about the Earth than actual Earthlings. And some people think the EPA is truly coming after them. What say you?
Well, I say that, you know, any time we people on the left try and do something, whether it's guns or cows, we're coming after to get your possession. And that's just not true. As the mother of 2 children, 4 and 5, who'll be here long after I'm gone, I hope, and living in Los Angeles, that used to have a cover of smog over it, if you recall, it is essential that we protect water and air for all human beings. That would be Earthlings for Greg. I'll email him later, okay? The regulations are in place to protect these people. It isn't about taking their jobs. It isn't about the government overreaching. And let's talk about what it's about on the other side. On the other side, it's about pleasing lobbyists from large corporations that write checks to those in the GOP and the Republican Party when they come up for re-election.
Tony, does the EPA and its regulations cost American jobs?
They absolutely do, and you could even see in all the data, the reason we've not had the economic recovery that we should be having is because, in large part, due to the overburdensome regulations that have come out of the Obama EPA under Ms. Jackson. Remember, the first 2 years of this administration, the EPA grew by 118%. The reason also being because when the Democrats, when they ran both the Senate and the House, were unable, even though they had a filibuster-proof Senate, unable to pass a cap-and-trade bill, the Obama administration passed an executive order making carbon a pollutant, therefore allowing the EPA to pursue additional regulations that the law itself did not allow them to pursue because Congress refused to act. There is a balance, and I hope Leslie agrees, between environmental protection and economic growth, recovery, stimulation. That's what we're trying to find right now. We need to make sure we liberate the energy sector, as we learned from a series of reports, one coming from PricewaterhouseCoopers, that has the potential to create over 1 million jobs in the next 3 years alone, if properly allowed through government regulation, not over-regulation, to start doing more drilling, to start exploring more energy sources, natural gas, which we are have in abundance here in the United States. And we see state by state, Shannon, the number of unemployed people in states like North Dakota and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Texas and Oklahoma are going down in large part because of energy production and energy exploration. And states like California, where Leslie sits, have horrendous unemployment, anemic growth, much like the rest of the country.
Leslie, I want to ask you, do you think that this administration is willing, even behind closed doors, to consider that possibly it is the message itself, it is the policy itself, and not just the way they're communicating it? We heard this over and over again with health care as well. They'll like it if they just understand what's in it. We're not selling it properly, spending millions on a PR plan, basically, to sell the health care bill. Do you think it's possible this administration is willing to consider it's at the heart of it itself, it's at the policy?
Well, I think that's what she said to a degree, but I mean, not the policy, the message. So no, I wouldn't agree that it's the policy. And in California, we created more jobs than Texas, Oregon, and West Virginia combined. So I'd recheck those numbers with regard to employment in this great state that I live.
And your state's twice the size of most.
But with regard to agreement somewhat with you, we do need to look to alternative means. But let me give you a very easy example. When you buy 3 T-shirts for $10 that are made in China, they're going to fall apart after one wash. Why? Because we sacrifice quality for cash. Now, when you're talking about human lives and you're talking about toxicity in the environment, I find it completely hypocritical that you care about the poor people with regard, today to their jobs and how are they going to heat their homes, but you don't care about their health, and you certainly don't want to pay for their health care once they are having any kind of a toxic respiratory problem due to carbon, due to those emissions in the future. And that will happen.
You know, Leslie, I'm not even sure what you're trying to say here. I mean, we have Medicaid. That pays for people who can't afford its health care. And, of course, I'm sure you know we have Obamacare, which I know you support. The reality is the energy-driven recovery of this economy can exist. You just heard President Obama in his press conference refer to energy as being a source of economic growth, which it can be, and can be done responsibly. This kind of dire, well, if you're for energy, you're against clean air and water. That's kind of a false choice that I think the left purports, at the detriment of the same constituencies they suggest they want to help. Let's look at the war on coal. The majority of lower and middle income people in America get their electrical energy from coal, yet the policies of the EPA and this administration are driving the cost of that energy up, and people can't afford it. We just heard a segment before here with gas. If gas is a commodity, the more of it you produce, the more the price is deflated. The more of it we get from North America rather than the Middle East, the less dependent we are on getting gas and oil from people who don't like us. And guess what? In 7 years, we're going to have more natural gas and oil accessible in our own country and our continent than they do overseas. So why don't we start finding smart, responsible ways to harness that?
We got to leave it there. Tony and Leslie, always great to see you.
Thanks so much, Shannon.
You too. Thank you.
All right, lawmakers.